One Central Park was awarded in November last year with the 13th annual Council on Port Elizabeth Habitat Awards as the world's best high-rise for 2014. And today's presentation will delve into the evolution of that design and how it ended up and those challenges along the way. And just an outsider looking in at the building, it's amazing looking at those two technologies you wouldn't normally associate with a high-rise building, with hydroponics and Heliostat. And I still don't quite understand how the Heliostats work, but I'm sure by the end of this process we will focus this morning, we'll understand what's happening there. But you watch, I walk past that building sort of weekly in Sydney, and you watch the screen shifting and the plants growing. It really is a living building, and it's changing every time we walk past it, even in the last 12 months. The greenery is so much lusher and going up Facade. You start to imagine looking inside that building, looking out through that plants that's giving the driving sun shading, the Heliostat sort of reflecting the heat off the roof and onto the buildings and into the parklands around it. So it sort of breaks a lot of those myths of high-rise where they're just tall buildings and taking away sunlight and daylight from parks and destroying trees. And the building here has probably got more landscape on it than what it stands on it. The idea of the Heliostat projecting that light around onto the plants and into the parkland. Starts to make you wonder what would happen if we had a city full of these buildings in very different streetscape to what we see outside. So maybe this building is against other developers that it can be done and catalysts to push it forward. So this morning we'll have our three presenters run through their side of their part of that great journey. The first up, we've got Mark Giles from PTW. Mark's a registered architect with 24 years experience in the built environment, including 9 years as a structural engineer, so I'm sure there's many conversations about the structure on the roof. That's what with the architecture team. He was awarded the best graduate when he finished at university. He's had 15 years architectural experience in international renowned practice. He's worked on a broad range of mixed-use, residential, public transport, education projects over that period, and those projects have received over 30 international awards. Mark's skill base is diverse and offers a strong design-based knowledge, management and construction with a structural understanding, which is unusual for an architect. Matt, our second speaker today, is the principal of Robert Bird, and he was responsible for the structural design of One Central Park. Before joining Robert Bird, Matt worked for Becca in New Zealand, was involved in a number of building projects and infrastructure projects, including the high voltage power upgrades, water treatment plants, and medium-sized residential. Matt joined Robert Bird in 2006, was involved in buildings in Brisbane, 400 George Street, Ipswich City Council, and the original work for Vision down in Market Street that became that huge swimming pool in the floods. After a short stint in Canada during 2009-2010, sounds like watching the Olympics snowboarding, Mark worked on some hydro skiing there before joining Robert Bird in Sydney to work on this fantastic project. Robert Settman is the principal at Arix and is the building services leader there. Robert's building is passionate about integrating services to build form with a strong understanding of multidisciplinary solutions in engineering design. This understanding is exemplified by Robert's track record of holistic design and his approach to effective communication and a concept idea, explaining concept to client and taking on the journey. Since joining Arix in 2005, Robert's led a multidisciplinary team working on some of those high-profile projects in Sydney, including 200 George Street, 8 Shifley, obviously 1 Central Park, and 39 Hunter Street. So we look forward to hearing from Mark today. Just before I sit down and let Mark stand, I should apologise for what I called Scott Mark before my rush, but anyway.
That was going to be marketing joke.
Okay, sorry. I didn't ask Bruce pointed out to me, so I normally do that sort of thing if you know me. Well, please welcome Mark to the stand.
Thank you very much, John. And, good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast soon. So, we're going to give a talk that obviously, as John has explained, with myself as the project architect here. So this is our project. I'm the project architect for the East Tower of One Central Park, which is the books. Sorry, I'll just go back. So the project architect for the 34-story of the East Tower. So this is a project where we've worked collaboratively. Our official title is a local collaborating architect, and that we have the design architect, Atelier Jean Nouvel, obviously based in Paris. So with them, and I'm preempting questions about how that relationship works as well. So to explain that situation, there's Jean-Michel is cultivating an intention of a concept, of an idea, and then we then teaming with him to bring that development idea into a local appropriate context for what we should do in Sydney. That means bringing in BCA advice, bringing in construction ideas, bringing in our understanding of building in Australia to make his ideas relevant, appropriate, and in the long term, readily achievable within our context. So when I talk about we, I'm talking about that in the context of PTW, which I'm for the design of the building. So this is me, and this is obviously going to be a building where there's a lot of different things going on. So one of the things I'll probably point out a few different things to look at in slides, and then other slides will come up and then I'll be able to sort of show you how they all interrelate. One of the main things that's good to notice here, this is a shot in between the two towers, looking up, so you can see the tall tower here, which has a big cantilever, and this is what's called the west tower here. So this tall tower here is 18 stories, and the taller tower is 34 stories. What you'll see here is the reflector frame, which we'll talk about as the Heliostat, in a nighttime condition where that has a lighting effect. What you'll see is that is aligned not with the cantilever, but aligned into a space that we're creating. So, where is Central Park? Where is One Central Park? So this is a shot, an image of Sydney looking from the south, looking towards the Harbour Bridge, which would be just underneath over there at the Barangaroo branch. You can see the CBD through here, and the harbour extension through here. This is Central Park, just down here. One of the most important things again here with the integration and relationship of this project is that you'll see that there's Chippendale to the immediate south. That's much more lower scale, much more residential a residential area. And then we have this space that we deal with the City of Sydney beyond. This is a site of 5.8 hectares that came into the ownership of the Fraser's Property Group in 2007. It's a significant undertaking of them at that time, and continues with about 12 individual separate building projects happening. One Central Park was the first and the signature project for that. This is showing you some of the history of this site that dates back to at least 1835. It's had a very history. So there's the Tooth family, which became probably known as Tilly's Beer, and then more recently then the Carlton United Breweries as well. So there's a number of over 30 heritage items that were sought to retain within this overall building. What you'll see coming up in some of our latest photos in that chimney is a brewery yard component there as part of our central thermal plan. There's also a heritage gate that we've been able to retain here, which One Central Park comes up high against. So, in terms of that broader context with the city, we have a CBD, we have Central Park down here, and we have this relationship that's happening down here to Chippendale. We've also obviously got a lot of development that's happening here through Barangaroo. And again, the main thing about what I find is with One Central Park, this is not just an insular building that looks upon itself. This is a building that's very much about integrating itself into a very wider context, about having a lot of inputs and a lot of requirements about how it must interrelate effectively into that condition. So part of that success of what we're finding here with Central Park and about the entirety of what's happening in that area is that the emphasis of Sydney is now tracking south. So there was a more emphasis that was up towards business end, and that's now, with Central Park, this whole shift now is happening within the city about the emphasis of where the city lies. So with this slide here, this will show some of the 3D modelling that we've used in our design for this project. So we use that, obviously it's got immediate benefits with the consultant team and our developer. It's also was an excellent device that we use web-based transfer of information to send that obviously to Paris with Jean-Michel people, and also to Singapore where there was another Fraser's base, and then to use that sort of basis to use imagery and circulate that around the world as quickly and as we could with video conferences and whatever else we needed to do to make sure those ideas are happening. So this is very much a project that didn't necessarily have to remain in one location. It was something that we could draw upon in the world. So to give you a few of the immediate ideas about what we're achieving here at Central Park, 623 apartments, and you can see that within the 34-storey tower where we have 383 apartments in that tower. On the smaller tower there, on the west tower, there's 240 apartments. You can see just through there as well, there's a 5-storey retail podium of about 16,000 square metres. 4 floors of that is ground floor and above, going up to a deck, and the 1 floor goes underneath as well. Below that podium as well, there's another 5 floors of car parking for 1,200 cars. The site has about 6060 site area. We have a floor space ratio of 11:1. That's giving us a gross building area there of about 67,500 square metres. So, One Central Park within the overall context of where we are is up here to the immediate north. And I might just quickly go back to that slide where you can just see here as well, this is the UTS tower. So if you're familiar there with Sydney and about the relationships, about the faces and the linkages that this project's about, One Central Park has its east tower approximating the massing and approximating the height of the UTS tower, because Broadway, which is the main street it's on, becomes Parramatta Road, which is the primary arterial road system out to the west of Sydney. One of the faces and one of the intentions we're very conscious about in Central Park is that as you approach Sydney, coming down Parramatta Road, becoming Broadway, these 2 towers would mark, and there would be the gateway to say you have now entered the city. So within here, you can see One Central Park. You can see the green space that exists to the southern portion of the site, and that in the master planning intentions there as well, what was sought here was to take intention building form out of the centre, redistribute its GFA to the surrounding buildings to create that southern space. Now, with the city to the immediate north and Chippendale a much lower scale to the immediate south, there was a dichotomy. There's a particular situation here that's creating that building mass to the north here for our tower would always create shadowing to its immediate south, which would have a negative impact to where the central place is, which we refer to here as Chippendale Green, which leads us to the Heliostat. This gives you an indication of Central Park in its entirety. You can see our One Central Park building up here. The green indicates residential development, and this is another view of the development as well, indicating some of the retail spaces to make sure all this is very activated, and there's a ground plane here that we're related to. Oops. There we go. So, in terms of the faces, again, that I'd like to discuss, we have a face to the city, and we have a face to Chippendale. The Chippendale, as I was saying, is much more lower scale, much more domestic, and then the face to the city is much more competing with UTS Tower and competing with the city and making sure that we've got a face that's appropriate to that. The manner in which we develop those ideas is to give the north and the east and the west faces a much more rectilinear, a very straightforward, very hard shape to those buildings, which is what we've been seeking here with our modelling. You can see with the green walls that will come up as part of the discussion, and also with some of the linear planters that you can see through there as well. So just to give them an imagery of that, this is one of our details that we developed for the green walls. You can also see the planters that will also come up in our later discussions, and the detail of a close-up of the finished building. So that what we're trying to do here is to present a face to the city that's very straight, that's very clean, that has a dialogue about how this building is going to sit on a very, very, very important road system in Sydney. What we're trying to do, though, to the south, to Chippendale, is to give a much more of a softness and a movement, and we're doing that through an undulation of the facade. So this is all intentions about how we're trying to get the building to have a placement about where it sits in the city, a placement about how it's trying to have ideas about how it relates to the city and to the streetscape, and then to give this a much more softer, quieter face there to the south. That's happens as well through the Chippendale Green and through certainly through the experiences I had when I'm there as well. There's a much quieter sense when you're in the southern portion of the building, and then there's much more dynamic, much more active face to the north. Now, so for the Heliostat and the reflector frame, so maybe just to point that out, the Heliostat is on top of the west tower, and the reflector frame is on top of, or to the underside of the cantilever to the east tower. The Heliostat is there as its immediate need is to bring light, reflected light, to areas that do not receive direct natural sunlight. The way in which we achieve that is that through the heliostats on top of the west tower, there's 40 of those, and that they track, they move, and they direct the sunlight. So we get, from that line there, you can see 40 suns go straight up to 320 fixed panels, which is the reflector frame to the underside of the cantilever. So the intentions of that is to get about 50% of that reflected sunlight comes down into the southern courtyards, and the remainder 50% goes down to come through a retail atrium, and it'll show you the heliostats there in action, that brings you down to give natural light through an atrium space, which is as much natural light as we can into that retail podium that exists over those 5 floors. So I think that hopefully that will explain a bit more about the building. You can see the east tower there. So this is all apartments from about this floor upwards, and this would be apartments here on the west tower going upwards. You can see the retail podium over about 5 floors, and you can see part of the basement underneath. So the heliostats, again, maybe just to explain that again, the heliostats move and they track. They're about 2 metres by 2 metres polished aluminium. They have about 6 settings throughout the year, so they'll track the relative position of the sun from a winter to a summertime situation, because we need to maximise as much sunlight as we can out of those to bounce those suns, all those 40 suns, up to maximise as much light as we can out of the reflector frame. So that the retail space we talked about, there's 16,000 square metres over 5 floors, which has become a very, very good commercial success. And then in terms of the apartments as well, our apartments, there's 623 of those. They have a range of studios, 1 beds, 2 beds, and a small amount of 3-bed apartments. We're not talking about high-end luxury with these apartments. What we're talking about is reasonable quality and reasonable levels of finishes that's appropriate for the Fraser's property group. They have a very, and of course they have their financial partner here with 6 accounts. The intention of designing these apartments, which is very much what we've been very involved about, where the commercial success of this project lies as well, is about the repeat purchases. The Frasers have a very consistent product, and they have a very regular product, and that's rewarded to them time and time again through having a lot of people come back to buy apartments from them time and time again. So we have a very strong system about how we should work with that. We've worked with Frasers for over 12 years now to cultivate an understanding of how we create their apartments. So you can see up here one of the living spaces. We're doing 2.7 by 2 metre big sliding glass panels, so these apartments have a lot of natural light compared to most other developments as well. And that we concentrate our living spaces and bedroom spaces out to maximise as much of that our living space as we can. Down here you'll see one of the bathroom treatments. And again, one of the things we've done here, regardless of whether a 1-bed or those studios or 1, 2 beds or a multi-million-dollar 3-bed, is that there's consistency and there's a signature of design. By being part of Central Park, you get the same type of bathroom, you get the same sort of treatment, you get the same type of bathroom. So by being a part of this development, you get a consistency. And then you get as well an understanding about the treatments of the green walls and the planters that you come out to the outside. So I'll come back again towards the end of the talk as well to wrap up a few other things, but I'll end you up just now.